Spalaya right now. Who the fuck knows what Spalaya is? Because there's no way to figure out what this could possibly be. It's a kind of liqueur. That's all we know. I'm going to drink some right now, and then I'll tell some history stories. It'll be fun.
Oh, Christ. Okay, I said a swig, not the whole thing. Andrew, stop!
I'm done. I mean, I only had half of what was left or whatever. But we got some of the bread with feta. I'll have that before I go to bed. I'll be fine. I'll get drunk soon, though, or whatever. And then I'll regret
so
it.
you have sex, Andrew.
Well, girl, you can't include that in the video. People are gonna know we're getting
No,
up to shit.
I'm recording it like on camera, not on Snapchat. So this is just
thank
for
God.
me.
You can edit later. Sounds good. Alright, I'm gonna sit down in bed, though, so we can talk about history. Ow, God. Anyway, the point is, talking about history, do you have any particular continent you'd like my history to reference?
Educate me.
I'm going to talk, I might have told you about this already, but Austria and the state of Tirol and the theft of Tirol by Italy after World War I. So, in Austria, since time immemorial, by which I mean about the 1400s or the 1500s, when the Habsburgs really established their domination, there was a state called the Tirol. Originally had its capital in a little town in what's now northern Italy called Meran. Nowadays, its capital is in Innsbruck. So, in roughly the 1500s, capital switched from Meran up to Innsbruck. But at any rate, Innsbruck basically straddles the Alps. It goes the Alps going down into northwest or northeast Italy, excuse me. So it's a very fertile area, and it's got some very important passages through the Alps going north. So if you're going from Italy trying to get up into the German territories, there are some extremely valuable passes through the mountains that this has access to. So we go up to the 1900s, and we go up to World War I, where Italy fought on the side of, I think, the Triple Entente. I want to say Britain, France, and then someone else. I don't remember who the fuck was. The Russians, who were a bunch of dumb shits, and then the Romanovs got themselves killed off because they were shitheads. And they kind of deserved it.
But kind of, yeah.
No, yeah, they deserved it all. I mean, apologies to the children, but, like, Nicholas was a piece of shit.
And his wife was dumb as a rock.
His wife was very foolish. And Rasputin was just kind of a weird asshole, and it's like, man,
and a horn dog.
Don't trust weird assholes. Like, that's the big thing. Weird assholes, you don't want to trust them in general. Especially when they're like, we absolve ourselves of sin by committing sin. That's some crazy shit. Absolving yourself of sin by committing sin, just think about that. That's obviously, like, you're either overthinking shit or you're just being dumb. One or the other. Move on from that bullshit. Anyway, so Rasputin was dumb, as was his little cult that he liked to participate in. The Romanovs were stupid, and they kind of deserved what they got. Anyway, so Italy takes part in World War I. They get fucked up because, frankly, Italy wasn't very good back then. And the Austrians kind of did whatever, and then the Germans came down and fucked everyone up. And the Americans fought in there a little bit. At the end of everything, though, Italy said, because Italy was on the winning side, they were like, you know what? We deserve some concessions from these assholes.
Yeah, that we didn't do shit.
We didn't do shit, exactly. We didn't do shit, but we deserve something from all this. And they were like, you know what? Hey, Woodrow Wilson. Like, Woodrow Wilson, who's got a weird legacy in American history. Because on the one hand, he was super into, like, the power of the vote and all that sort of shit. He was also crazy racist. He was, like, the most racist jackass that was ever president.
Birth of a nation.
I mean, until now. But yeah, he was a crazy-ass racist. Anyway, which we don't talk about enough in, like, high school history classes, I feel like. I didn't know that shit till I was in college.
Oh, no, like, I heard about, like, how he had, like, a private screening of Birth of a Nation.
He was a crazy-ass racist. Like, man, he was a Democrat from, like, the 1850s. He was an 1850s-style Democrat. Anyway, so Woodrow Wilson, on the one hand, ups for, like, going with the whole, votes and, popular sovereignty kind of thing. On the other hand,
and proposing
also League of Nations. League of Nations was a very nice idea. Also, you're a horrible racist, so kind of fuck you. And he deserved to die of a stroke and be embarrassed the way that he did. But anyway, Italy says to Woodrow Wilson, by the way, there's a state called Tirol, southern half of it, which happens to include a very valuable pass up through the Alps. That whole pass, they actually mostly speak Italian there. Did you know that? And Woodrow Wilson said, I did not know that. That's crazy shit, but they deserve to be Italian instead of Austrian, who speak German, and that's some crazy bullshit. So you Italians get what used to be part of Tirol, we're going to now call Alto Adige. So basically, they switched that over. And then Woodrow Wilson is like, maybe I should do some research instead of just taking the Italian's word. And he looks into it and he's like, wait, it's like 80% German speakers in here. He's like, Italy, you lied to me, you fuckers. And Italy's like, too late for takebacks now. We got it already. And Woodrow Wilson just sort of shakes his fist and he's like, you bested me this time, but dang it, you beat me. And that's the end of it. And Italy's like, yeah, we got this place that's mostly German speakers, but it's ours now. And it's a bunch of rich, fertile farmland, and it's got some really advantageous passages up to the north. Fuck you, Woodrow Wilson, and your dumb, voting-minded aspect. The end. And then, going further in time, World War II happens. The 1930s come along, and in fairness, Mussolini is a total jackass. He ships up a shit ton of Sicilians. He's like, you know what? This used to be farmland. We're gonna pave all this over with roads and shit and turn it into factories. We're gonna ship up Sicilians so that it's an Italian-speaking area instead of a German-speaking area like it used to be. The German speakers, because people respond well to this kind of thing, all turn to fascism. And they're like, you know what? We're going to be the most ardent supporters of Hitler that have ever existed. So on the one hand, you want to be sorry for him because, like, Mussolini sucks. But then it's like, oh, they turned to Hitler. They turned to being Nazis. And the worst kind of shitty Nazis that ever could have been.
It's like the lesser of two.
It's the lesser of two evils, and they chose the worst one because they're dumb as fuck. So World War II happens, and then there's this thing called the Moscow Declaration, where England and America and Russia were like, we got to figure out what the hell to do with this whole Germany thing after, we've won this war. Because, like, who's going to go where? What's going to happen? And they were like, well, we don't want to be dicks to, like, everyone that Germany conquered. But Russia was like, most of the people that Germany conquered were super into the whole, like, killing Jews thing. Like, they were dicks too, in fairness. Stalin was a horrible asshole who committed horrible genocide, so he was also not in a great position to criticize, but he did. Anyway, he was also fair, though, in pointing out that, like, Austrians were super into committing genocide against the Jews, as were the Poles, who are currently trying to pretend that that never happened. For anyone who has missed the news, where they passed a literal law that was like, you can't associate Poles with the Holocaust, because Poland is very smart about how to acknowledge history and its own role and complicity therein. Anyway, so there was the thing called the Moscow Declaration, saying saying Austria being the first country to fall to specifically not Nazi, but Hitlerite aggression. Long story short, Austria gets to be independent from Germany, even though there's a long connection and there had been a very long Germanic national idealism towards creating a state that included both Austria and Germany. They were like, no, Austria falls to Hitlerite aggression as opposed to Nazi aggression, because there was already a shit ton of Nazis in Austria before Germany decided to waltz on in with the Anschluss. So Moscow Declaration happens. They're like,
I like how you use waltz.
Thank you. Well, that's what they did. It was
they did. They were welcomed.
They were doing it to Johann Strauss II and all of his wonderful, lovely little pieces.
And when Hitler came into Austria, like people were like cheering.
There was. I mean, hell, the Night of Broken Glass was an important night in Germany, or in Austria as well as in Germany. So there was a shit ton of Glasnacht. The Night of the Long Knives happened, there as much as anywhere else. Anyway, so basically, Russia and England and Britain were like, or Russia and England and America were like, Austria fell to the Hitlerite aggression, so they get to be independent from Germany, along with all the other countries that fell to Hitlerite aggression. Although, as you know, again, Russia made this thing. Russia made sure we said Hitlerite instead of Nazis, so that we could be like, yeah, but those Austrians also were super into the Nazis because a lot of them were Nazis. But no one really cared afterwards because they were like, whatever, Germany's the main bad guy, so that's the only one we're going to really punish for anything. But anyway, after that, there was this whole big question of like, how do we divide up all these countries? Because like there was this old state that used to be Prussia, and they screwed that over. They were like, fuck it. You get nothing. Part of you becomes Russia randomly. That's why we've got that weird piece of Russia that's like between Estonia and Latvia and Lithuania and Poland. That's sort of like, why is that Russia? But no one cares, whatever. That's just like part of Russia for no good reason. But it's got access to the Baltic, so sure. But then they were like, all right, so Austria, just kind of be an independent state for a while. That was the whole Moscow Declaration. It was like, whatever. Everyone who got conquered by Germany doesn't belong to Germany anymore. You're your own thing. And then Austria was like, all right, cool. Can we get Tirol back, like the southern part? Called Alto Adige by the Italians. And everyone was like, well, you know what? The Italians might be leaning towards communism. So the answer is no. We don't want to piss off the Italians, and we know that you're going to be capitalist. So the Austrians were like, this is some bullshit. And then the Italians were like, naturally, we're all going to be capitalist. And everyone immediately after was like, oh shit. The Italians all went towards capitalism. What we really should have done is given Southern Tyrol back to Austria, because that would be fair. And these Italians obviously weren't impacted by our giving them Southern Tyrol. So we kind of fucked that one up. And then Italy was like, too late. No take-backs. No take-backs on that shit,
Fool
bitches.
me once. No, was it fool me once? Shame on you.
Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on
Fool
me.
Fool me three times.
No,
fuck the
no,
peace sign. That's a J.
I have
Cole
literally
lyric.
never heard of that.
Fool
J.
me.
Who? What?
J. Cole.
J. Cole.
Fool me once, shame
J.
on you.
Cole.
J. Cole. Fool
That's
me
not
once.
a real person. That cannot be a real person. J. Cole.
It's
No one has
J,
the last name of
comma, Cole.
Oh, J. Cole. Oh. I heard Jake, Jake, and then Hole, Hole. That's not a real person.
It's fool me once, shame on you.
J.
Fool me
Cole.
twice, shame on you. Fool me three times, fuck the peace
I
sign.
feel like J. Cole is trying to add too many qualifiers to this. There's only two important things.
It's a lyric.
Anyway, everyone was like, oh, I guess we should have given Austria Southern Tyrol again. But that didn't work out. And Italy was like, yeah, fuck you guys. And then Italy was like, yeah, this is super rich farmland. We're cool. And then Austria and Italy hated each other until about the 1970s. And then they were like, maybe diplomacy would work. And they started talking to each other. Long story short, they said, all right, Alto Adige, or Southern Tyrol, is now going to be an autonomous province of Italy. So they get a bunch of tax breaks from Italy, and they get a bunch of tax breaks from Austria. So they've got the best of both worlds, and it doesn't really benefit anyone. But whatever, both Austria and Italy get to kind of claim it, so everyone's happy. The end.
The end. And now the German national team for the World Cup, they always train in South Tyrol.
Because South Tyrol is fucking gorgeous. If you get the chance, go to Meran. It's a beautiful place. There is a hiking trail that takes you through apple orchards, apparently, going from Tirol through Alto Adige, which is absolutely gorgeous. I've been on part of it, but just walk on through. You can see apple orchards, you can see old castles. Ezra Pound, his daughter, married a Russian count, and they bought a castle in Meran. And after he was released, because Ezra Pound, being a weird dick, decided to support fascism and was put in prison in Oregon for a while. After he got out of prison, he went over to where his daughter and his son-in-law were and lived in the castle until he died in northern Italy. There's a beautiful castle that those folks bought. His grandson, who is a duke or some bullshit, now owns it. There's a museum about folk agriculture in northern Italy, which is very cool and worth checking out. And also just the weirdness of Ezra Pound, the fascist lover. Kind of weird, but whatever. And we're gonna move. It's mostly one of those things where people are like, well, he was super into fascism, but we'll move past that because that's awkward to think about. And it's worth checking out because there's some cool old architecture. The end.
The end.
Goodbye.